The Listen to Read American Adventure Library presents The Adventures of a Young Man Growing Up in the 1830s, A Journey West for Gold in 1849, and the story of how that man saved a wagon train of pioneer families from certain death by starvation and the scorching sun. Death Valley in 49, by William Lewis Manley, read by Stojka. Chapter 1. Boyhood and Early Life in Vermont.
St. Albans, Vermont is near the eastern shore of Lake Champlain and only a short distance south of 5 40 north degrees, which separates the United States from Canada, and some 60 or 70 miles from the Great St. Lawrence Seaway in the city of Montreal. Here it was, on April 6, 1820, I was born, so the record says. And from this point, with wandering eyes of childhood, I looked across the waters of the narrow lake to the slopes of the Adirondack Mountains in New York, green as the hills of my own Green Mountain State. Parents of my father were English people and lived near Hartford, Connecticut, where he was born. A still little boy, he came with his parents to Vermont. My mother's maiden name was Phoebe Calkins, born near St. Albans of Welsh parents, and being left an orphan while yet in very tender years, she was given away to be reared by people who provided food and clothes, but permitted her to grow up to womanhood without knowing how to read and write. After her marriage, she learned to do both and acquired the rudiments of an education. Grandfather and his boys, 4 in all, fairly carved a farm out of the big forest that covered the cold, rocky hills. Giant work it was for them in such heavy timber, pine, hemlock, maple, beech, and birch, the clearing of a single acre being a man's work for a year. The place where the maples were thickest was reserved for a sugar grove, and from it was made all of the sweet material they needed, and some besides. Economy of the very strictest kind had to be used in every direction. Main strength and muscle were the only things dispensed in plenty. The crops raised consisted of small flint corn, rye oats, potatoes, and turnips. 3 cows, 10 or 12 sheep, a few pigs, and a yoke of strong oxen comprised the livestock. Horses? They had none for many years. A great ox cart was the only wheeled vehicle on the place, and this in winter gave place to a heavy sled, the runners cut from a tree having a natural crook and roughly but strongly made. Summer there were plenty of strawberries, raspberries, whortleberries, and blackberries growing wild, but all the cultivated fruit was apples. As these ripened, many were peeled by hand, cut in quarters, strung on long strings of twine, and dried before the kitchen fire for winter use. They had a way of burying up some of the best keepers in the ground, and opening the apple hole was quite an event of early spring. The children were taught to work as soon as large enough. I remember they furnished me with a little wooden fork to spread the heavy swath of grass my father cut with easy swings of the scythe. And when it was dry and being loaded on the great ox cart, I followed closely with a rake, gathering every scattering spear. The barn was built so that every animal was housed comfortably in the winter, and the house was such as all settlers built, not considered handsome, but capable of being made very warm in the winter. And the great piles of hardwood in the yard, enough to last as fuel for a year, not only helped to clear the land, but kept us comfortable. Mother and the girls washed, carded, spun, and wove the wool from our own sheep into good strong cloth. Flax was also raised, and I remember how they pulled it, rotted it by spreading on a green meadow, and then broke and dressed it, and then the women made linen cloth of various degrees of fineness, quality, and beauty. Thus, by the labor of both men and women, we were clothed. If an extra fine Sunday dress was desired, part of the yarn was colored, and from this they managed to get up a very nice plaid goods for the purpose. In clearing the land, the hemlock bark was peeled and traded off at the tannery for leather, or used to pay for tanning and dressing the hide of an ox or cow, which they managed to fat and kill about every year. Stores for the family were either made by a neighboring shoemaker or by a traveling one who went from house to house making up a supply for the family. Whipping the cat, they called it then. They paid him in something or other produced upon the farm, and no money was asked or expected. Wood was one thing plenty, and the fireplace was made large enough to take in sticks 4 feet long.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?